Leeds United could have a significant injury crisis brewing, and that could cause some very serious issues for Leeds United, especially going into the FA Cup match against Chelsea later this week. I'm going to go through what all of the injury news is, what it could mean for the squad, and some potential causes for it in addition to what we can expect in the Chelsea match. So I'm going to dive headfirst into the team news without any delay. And Daniel Farke was incredibly clear at the very start of his press conference that he wanted to make the right decisions with the players that he had available. He says, we won't risk any players or do anything stupid, because he very clearly has an eye on the league rather than specifically targeting the FA Cup. That clear eye on the league is easily told by the fact that he said that we have 3 matches in 6 days in the league coming up, 4 games in 10. That's an obscenely tight schedule, especially for a relatively tight squad in the first place. And when you have injuries, you cannot go risking exacerbating them, especially considering we are against Premier League opposition that are likely to go full strength. And yeah, so the injury issues themselves, we're going to have to go through them one by one. The first up is Patrick Bamford, who is reportedly a doubt. He has some calf issues flaring up, apparently got a little bit of a knock as well. That's not very good as a starter, partially because Patrick Bamford is one of the most important parts of our attacking unit. You can see that when he's on the pitch, his movement creates space for everyone else, and we are just able to thrive because of the way that Bamford has moved and created opportunities for the rest of the front line. Against Chelsea, that would have been essential, considering that, depending on who they pick, the centre-backs aren't necessarily the best at dealing with pacey players, so Bamford's movement could put them out of position, make sure that they're unable to keep up with the pace, and cause them some problems. However, that was only the first of the many, many injury issues that we're likely to face, because Crysencio Rummerville is also doubtful. He reportedly rolled his ankle against Leicester, and this isn't the first issue that Crysencio Rummerville has had in terms of injuries in the past few weeks, but it's the first that we've heard of. Apparently, he's been missing training fairly often in the last 3 or 4 weeks, which is starting to make sense because he's not really been on his top form for the past 3 or 4 weeks. It's very telling that he might not have been able to properly train with the rest of the squad as a unit. That could have affected his confidence, it could change his decision-making, and ultimately lead to him not quite doing what we need on the pitch. You've noticed that his goals and assists have gone down a little bit in the past few weeks. That's very likely a cause, and I feel like this means that we're not going to see Crysencio Rummerville play in the game against Chelsea, because it's a risk that we don't need to take. We need wins in the league. It'd be nice if we could win in the FA Cup. That's the long and short of it. In addition to that, we've got even more injuries. Yeah, Georginio, Rutter, there is a decision to be made there in the next day or two. He apparently didn't train either today or yesterday. I can't quite remember which one, but he's got a hip flexor issue, which means that, yeah, that's not very good either, because he is one of the prime creators in this side. We're going to need to find a way to create opportunities without Georginio Rutter in the side at some point, and why not against Chelsea? Rutter is a player that I was really looking forward to playing this match, because players such as a Conor Gallagher or a Moise Caicedo, from what I was able to tell from the Carabao Cup final, are players that are very easy to drag out of position because they will get a little bit too excited. Georginio Rutter is perfect for that. His footwork will just draw them out of position and leave space and space and space for the wingers, but we don't know whether or not that will be entirely feasible here, which is a pretty big issue. That wasn't all of the injuries that were caused to our front line either, with Dan James also apparently a bit of a risk. However, this is apparently just minor bruising, so he should be able to play, but it depends on how careful Daniel Farke wants to be. If he wants to say, okay, we'll play nobody that's even a risk, that's where we have some potential problems. And this is where we need to sort of discuss the Chelsea match in a little bit more detail, because I think we'll see a lot of rotation in our own squad, but Chelsea, I don't think we'll see any at all. Because as Daniel Farke said, and it's a very good point, this is Chelsea's only real opportunity to get European football next season. Carabao Cup, they're not in it anymore. They lost that final, quite depressingly, against a youth side. That's one opportunity for European football next season gone. They're not going to get there in the league because their league form is dire and they are far too far behind the competition to get into a European competition, never mind the Champions League. And that leaves the FA Cup. And with them only having the FA Cup really as an opportunity, I think I agree with the fact that they will prioritise this competition and play a very, very strong side. They will try and be as fired up as they can be after the Carabao Cup match, and it won't necessarily be an easy one for us at all. We see Chelsea are struggling a little bit right now, and Middlesbrough beat them earlier in the season. But I don't think we'll see much, if any, rotation from this Chelsea side because they need to win in the FA Cup in order to give themselves any chance of continental competition next season. It's getting a little bit desperate for them. It's getting desperate for Pochettino, who honestly will struggle to keep his job for a while if things keep up like this. And I think that'll definitely play against us here. But we can hope. And outside of that, I wanted to discuss a little bit more about what is potentially causing these issues in terms of injuries. And there are some very clear causes that you can point to and say, this is why we're having issues. The first up is the huge match load. We've got 3 league matches in 6 days coming up. We've got the match against, Chelsea on Wednesday, followed by the Saturday lunchtime kickoff is us against Huddersfield. Then the next Tuesday we've got a match. I believe it's against Stoke, maybe. And then the next Friday we've got a match. That's 6 league games in 3 days. 4 matches in 10 days overall, including one against Premier League opposition. And that schedule is just completely unsustainable. And for the most part, it's been brought on by the TV schedule. Why aren't we a later kickoff this weekend if we're playing on a Wednesday in the FA Cup? Why are we then playing Tuesday? Sure, not a problem, but then Friday. The amount of matches is going to stack up, and that combines with the fact that some of those matches have been incredibly high intensity. The Leicester City match, every single player on the pitch gave a shit, which is brilliant when you're watching the game. But it also means that you're more likely to get injured because you're running harder and you're getting kicked and you're kicking people. And that is all problems for various people all over the pitch. And it can lead to injuries, in addition to playstyles. Specifically, Crysencio Rummerville's playstyle was discussed, and the fact that he's a tricky winger that likes the ball at his feet and moves it around quite intelligently. That means that he's significantly more likely to get kicked by a defender. And when that happens again and again and again and again, you're repeatedly stressing those same bones, those same joints, and you're causing yourself some very serious issues. And it will tell going forwards. And what we ultimately have to hope for at the moment is that Leeds United as a squad will be able to recover from that and will be able to keep growing and performing to a good standard in spite of the injuries. We've got a little bit of depth. We just need to make sure that that depth is playing to the quality that we need, getting some results, and ideally pushing us forward in both the FA Cup and getting us promoted. Anyway, let me know what you thought down below in the comments. If anything, let me know what your predicted lineup will be for the Chelsea match. I'm going to do a preview that will come out the morning of the Chelsea game, alongside a fairly standard video that's likely to come out tomorrow. Subscribe if you like this video and would like to see more. I've lost this outro, haven't I? I'm going to keep rolling with it. Like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. You could even be a channel member if you fancy. I will see you later. We could do without these injuries, you know. These are starting to cause real problems at this point.